start on the fact that I am a spoiled person when we were talking about, hi, in fact, I'm Mary. I'm here to do a little interview with my bro and here to talk about being spoiled. And it's a good thing. I decided early on that it was a good idea to surround myself with people who really liked me rather than be the pursuer of somebody that was out of my reach, who wasn't interested in me. It felt like a preservation tactic. And it was better. It just felt better rather than just to be like, hey, I hope you like me and look at me, you know. I thought these people are all coming at me, and I dug it. And it was like narcissism plus all of their love for me as well. And I try to tell other girls about this kind of a thing. And lots of them don't care about that. They feel like, oh, I see what I lack in this dude, in this guy. And so then they go after somebody that doesn't care about them. And that's ridiculous. If I were to tell myself what I know now at 55, telling the 17-year-old or the 16-year-old, I would say maintain your physical health as a priority for yourself rather than to just look beautiful, because that's how I always viewed health and fitness, more for looks rather than how it makes you feel. And but it's hard. It's something that was difficult, and I always chose the easier paths. So, that was really the problem, I think. Fitness hurts. To do repetitive exercises hurts your body. And when you're trying to run, aka walk, or do anything over and over, it was the path of most resistance versus least resistance, plus eating things that you really enjoy to eat versus things that you don't enjoy to eat. If you've already chosen to take on people that want to serve you, want to do good things for you, want to bring you what you prefer, they're going to give you food that you like. And they're not going to make you do anything because they're going to serve you in a throne. They're going to make things easy for your life. And that's how I've chosen to live my life. So I have a lot of fun. I have really nothing but fun from the morning to the night. I'm pretty much happy all the time. There's really no downside to being happy all the time. He's like, pros and cons to being happy. Well, the con to being happy is that there really isn't one. I don't see a bad part of being happy. I mean, I feel good, I look in the mirror, I think, whoa, it's going to be a lot of fun to be with you today. Every single day. And that's a lot of fun. Basically, But other people look at me and they think the same thing. And I agree with them. And to be a mom is just like the greatest thing ever. It's nurture, just hang out, impart every feeling, every emotion that you have, and just gush and give it to the child. The child just sucks on you literally and figuratively. I mean, they just love you. It's a physical beauty. I mean, inexplainable to a man, I don't think. I mean, men love their kids, but they can't understand how it feels to have a child grow from the milk that you give the child, from your body. It's crazy. And then when a child is sick or hurt, they come to the mom. They want that nurture. Just like where does a husband come? They come to the mother. They come to a woman. They want the woman. They need the woman. During the late 80s and early 90s, I had a dating service called Club C. Club C was a video dating service before the internet. During that time, I had almost 1,500 people come and go through my door, where they would come in one at a time. I would put them on videotape, and I would try to hook them up with people. It started out being called Club C, Why was it called Club C? Because I thought I was going to be able to cater to a curvaceous woman as I was. Because guys always dug me. I thought that they would like all these other girls. Well, what I found was that other women that were not like me, who were heavy set or large, they hated themselves and they carried it like that. And they came in like, so they would sit in front of me and they would just take anything. And guys didn't like them. Girls, they didn't like being themselves. And it was just, it was terrible. During that time, though, I found out that girls give away the farm much too early. All these women are, not all, but many of these women are so insecure that they think that they want to give the guy what they want immediately, And that's not what the man wants. They want to want that thing, but they don't want it. They didn't understand it. So I would have flirting classes with the women. I would fill my office space full of women who would come in and try to learn how to relate to a man without having sex with him, because that's all they were there for. You would be surprised at how many guys come in. If they are a man of means, they think that any girl will want him. And these girls come in and they'll just like, they hated the guys. So there was disconnects, But if I could actually make that thing work where I'd get a girl that said yes and a guy that said, hey, yeah, I'll take her. Boom. Match. And it happened. I've known hundreds of people, men and women, who are less than confident than what they should be. Less confident than what they should be. And you can't give it to them. It's just in their gut. And you can't, just like nobody can take it away from me. How could anybody make me how I am? Nobody can. I dream cocky. In my own dreams, I dream that I am nude as I am. I would be walking through a public square and have only like a blue sash on my shoulder. And I'll look at another person and go, that's kind of a weird outfit you're wearing. Thinking of them as though they're embarrassed. Because obviously nobody's going to think that of me. Women are so beautiful, so gorgeous, have so much going for them, so many talents, and they don't know it, and they don't know what to do with it, They think the answer is a guy. The world is full of men. They need women. And, so why just throw it away? Why do that? So anyway, these are the things that I used to do when I owned the dating service. And then I got tired of it and I went into radio and I started talking about it. I had no aspirations to be in radio whatsoever. And one time I was on KIOS, which is a public radio station. I was on as an artist, as a drummer, because I knew somebody who ran a show. And it was fun, and I forgot about it. And in about a month, somebody from the competing public radio station called me and said, would you like a job doing our Saturday concert? We heard you on KIOS. We liked your voice. And I'm like, what? Wow, okay, well, let me think about it. And so I went to my friend, Rick Urban, who worked at KIOS, and I said, I don't know how to run a board. I don't know anything about radio. He said, that's nothing. Come on in. And he sat me down in front of a board and showed me, what to do and, how to approach a mic, all about what's coming in and what's going out. And really, he was my papa for radio. I went over, talked to the people, and I got a gig. And I was screaming because it was just 3 hours on the weekday or on the weekend on Saturdays. And I did the Saturday concert and I would sit in a booth and that was Stravinsky. That was the fourth movement with, Claudio Abbado on violin. It's 3:20 on KVNO. And, when you're just first doing that, your heart just jumps through your world, because when you crack the mic open, you're like, oh my gosh, if I make a mistake, everybody's going to call the station and it's going to be ridiculous. And you're just like shaking at first, because you're like, and then after 2 months for me, you're just like, blah, blah, blah. And then you start just getting used to it, and then finally you're just like, I want to do something more and more. And then they gave me jazz. They're like, hey, you're a jazz musician? Yeah. Why don't you program our jazz for the nights? I started doing that. Then they're like, hey, we've got promoters calling from the jazz stations all over the country that want you to play their stuff. So I'd start taking calls on Wednesday. Then they start sending me music. I basically counted down the top 10 jazz records every week and just talked about the artists whom I knew at this point, because jazz world is so small. I start telling little stories about when I met them in New York or talked to them on the phone. It was so much fun for people, and they would hear these stories and about the music, and it was fun for me. So then somebody hears me from a commercial station. Come on over. That started 20 years of morning and night shows. But still, the most fun that I ever had in radio, probably even through all that time, was that early jazz show late at night, and going and talking to promoters and jazz musicians, because that's, it was music. It was my love. So, but I did a lot of commercial, and I met everybody, and I did everything in radio that can be done. And stars, interviewed stars, had 2 shows running at the same time. I did everything on that. I did an afternoon show with Gary Saddlemeyer, who is still at KFAB. He's the morning man there, and he's been there like 35 years. I did an afternoon show with him, and it was Drive Time Omaha with Gary and Mary. And we were there for maybe 3-4 years together. And suddenly I felt a shift. Something's happening, and people are having meetings and you're not involved in it. And then all of a sudden you hear, oh, there's going to be a big change, and you don't know what it is. And then they take you into the office and they say, Mary, you just stay put. Everything's going to be the same for you. I'm like, cool, but you have a different co-host. I'm like, what? And so Gary's stripped from me. He goes to the mornings. They give me Charlie Stone from Sioux City, Iowa, who had been in the mornings, but I didn't listen to him because I was never up that early. I didn't even know who he was. They bring in this 6'6", 300-pound dude who's 10 years older than me, whom I thought, I don't know anything about this guy. Instantly we clicked. I had him laughing. He was nice, sweet, open to laughing at me, and I laughed at him nonstop. So we had a dynamic between the two of us that was just, we knew how it was between us. He protected me. He was good to me. I appreciated him. He made my life happy in radio every day. And I had no idea at the first that it would be that way. And we began, I don't know, I think it was at least 11 years that we were together. Drive Time with Charlie and Mary, and then we went to the mornings, then we went to another station and another 2 stations in the morning, and we won every time slot because it was chemistry. It was just awesome chemistry. So anyway, that's how it was with Charlie. Finally, they said, this money is killing us for the talent, because my price was expensive because I was doing 2 shows. Charlie's money was high. All of us were making a lot of good money, and they decided, hey, all we have to do is syndicate one of the shows from another place, run it in the morning. They'll forget about these talents, and then we'll put them someplace else. They can do a shift here or there and would cut their money in half or whatever. So they started doing this kind of, thing. They syndicated the morning show for K-Rock from Lincoln. It was like Animal and Johnny Royal in the morning. They just, one day it's Mary in the morning, next day it's Johnny Royal, and nobody even cares, right? And so then they're like, hey, Mary, we'll pay you the same, just do your afternoons. That was the greatest thing ever, not having to get up at 3 a.m., right? So that was cool. But then that was almost going to be the beginning of the end, because I knew if they're any kind of job, once they start taking away things, you're figuring, they're pretty much going to take you away eventually. And sure enough, they lost the farm guy, Roger Flemmer with the farm report. They're like, oh, here's your, retirement and bye-bye. So they just started skeleton crewing that place, because they used to have a newsroom. They had reporters that went out. KFAB was like the big flame-throwing clear channel radio station from Canada to Mexico. I mean, that thing was just, everybody could hear that station. And so it used to have a full-fledged newsroom. Well, they just figured out that it would be cheaper to just run it with nobody there. Take stories off the AP and just run it like that. So pretty soon they offered us less money, and we decided to go to a different, take it away from KFAB, and we went to KCAR, which is the competing talk station. And we did that for a few years. And then that station itself had no signal. So we went from the greatest in the whole country, practically one of the 4 greatest stations, to something you couldn't hear, to Dodge Street, and so people were really upset about that, because they couldn't hear us. And they tuned out. We had no ratings. So they finally take us off that, and this group put us on what they thought was one of their better stations, that had a signal, and it was a light rock, less talk station. And we ended up and that was Celine Dion on Light 101.9. And Charlie's like, turn it off. I don't want to hear any more of this music. And we would sit in silence in the booth, Charlie and I. Charlie hated that so much, because all he wanted to do is talk. And for him to, to have to just not talk. And he goes, I hate music. I'm like, how can you say that? We almost killed each other in that booth, because honestly, he's like, I'm like, how do you hate music? How can somebody say such a thing? And he'd be like, I said, what are you doing anyway? Because he wouldn't prepare anything. He wouldn't listen to the news. He'd just sit in silence. He wanted the whole thing silent. He goes, I'm thinking. And then I'm just like, I'm going to punch your head right now. I'm coming over and I'm going to sock you in the head. He goes, I'll put you right through Dodge Street, because we had a big giant, it was a big wall of windows. And he's like, so they'd hear us. And one other duo actually did come to fisticuffs, and the dude put his fist through the wall and threw the co-host out he was a farmer. This guy had a farm, and then he was doing a morning show. So radio personalities are like marriages. And when Charlie was on the end of this thing, when we were on the Light Rock channel, and he had to play Celine Dion and, all those people, Barry Manilow over and over, he just went really crazy. He did. He went crazy. And I would crack up, and then he would say, my face is cracking too, because he would have a new wrinkle. He smoked terrible. He'd get a wrinkle, and then he'd just be like, my face is cracking like an egg, and everything is just falling apart. And then I was watching this guy just implode, mental, anyway. So that's kind of the end of that whole thing. Just kind of went down in a big toilet. People say, how can you do that, Mayor? You had a business, because I had the dating service. You had a business, and then you lost your business. No, I closed the door of the business, so I did radio. So it was my next move, right? And then they said, you were a big radio star, and then you got out of radio. Don't you feel terrible? And I'm like, no, man. I got me. I'm the product. It's me that they wanted anyway. And I walk out with me. So whatever I'm going to be doing is going to be from me. It's going to be from my head. What do I care? And radio is that's a disintegrating commodity. Who wants to listen to radio now? Nobody. I do blogs. I have a blog now that people come by the thousands to my blog, and that's mine. I write about profiles of people that I find interesting. and I do some audio and they come to listen to that, I will invent myself for the next thing. Whatever that is, boom, keep going. They're like, oh man, how can you take it? Don't you feel like they just lopped off your... No, it's me. I invent it. I'm the creator. It's what I say it is. Not something somebody gave me. I never wanted to be in radio. Those people are so dorky. Do you know what radio people are like? They're the people that cannot do anything. Those that can do, those that can't are in radio. It's not teach. It's in radio. They're dorks. But anyway, I digress. We were talking about discipline and food. But there is a discipline that I did take on early on because it brought me much excitement, fun, acclaim, recognition, and that was music. Early on in my life, we chose an instrument. We practiced on tables, and it was cheap. My aunt gave us a drum set. I took the thing apart, and that is a good thing for kids, to take their instrument apart. Anyway, I took that thing apart, put it back together, cleaned it, polished my cymbals, stayed up in my room. This was a solitary endeavor to learn how to play the drums. Play for 10 hours. Nobody bothered me. My mom knew what I was doing, because during the summer or at night, she could hear that I wasn't like sneaking out, doing something wrong. She could hear that I was actually doing something positive. And you'd make little strides, rudiments are something that you just have to, it's just constant physical motion. So you're learning things in increments. And it was instant payoff for me because as soon as I got a beat or two down, my mom said, let's put a band together. Let's do it. And she said, where would you like to play? My mom said, let's get you a gig. And I said, sure. She had me trying out for this band, for that band. We'd go do an audition here, an audition there. She brought guys. She let guys come over to my house and play guitars. She bought amplifiers. She had people in our front room. I was playing all kinds of stuff. And it was awesome. At 14 years of age, I was playing with the Omaha Symphony, substituting on timpani. I was playing snare. I was doing a gig at the Purple Jester in Bellevue, and in Papillion I was doing a gig. I would go to clubs. I was much too young. Of course, I was like 6 feet tall already, 5'11". I got my full height by the time I was 14. So I'd go in a club. No one thought twice about it. I weighed 140 pounds. I was going in. They thought I was an adult, except for if you looked hard, I was young. And so I got used to, the attention, the fun, the limelight. Plus, it wasn't just that. It was the music. You interplay with other musicians, and there was nothing like it. It's a conversation that you're having with another person, only you're not speaking at all. And you have that, it's just instantaneous excitement. They do something, you give them a little punch here and there. Even if I wasn't calling the shots on what the music was exactly, I could make it better. And I could make a singer sound better. I could make a guitarist feel better. I could make a bass player get a groove and lock with them and make them feel great, So it was a lot of fun. And I got hooked on it. And I wanted to know more about music. I wanted to know more about jazz because that was improvisational music. And it was exciting. Relax, everybody. Have a good time. Relax, be loved, love, and enjoy your life.